Hello and welcome back to Star Citizen. My name is Evenlease, and today on 10 Minutes More or Less Ship Review, right behind me, the AEGIS Vanguard Harbinger. Let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, welcome back to another review. Today, the AEGIS Vanguard Harbinger, which I haven't taken a look at in quite a long time. Quite a few stats have changed since then, so let's go over that. Before we do, thank you to WinRAR, Cypher1, Archangel, and of course Zero Grav for joining me today to make sure I get all the right angles and also the good old fighting scenes towards the end of the video. I'm going to go over a lot of stats here and tell you why my ending score is what it is for this ship. This ship is $290 if you're to buy it on the pledge store, or if you get it in game, it is $11,510,100 aUEC. Definitely not a terrible price, but you got to ask yourself, what can this ship do for you, and what is it like stock? Because I like to review any ship stock because you're looking to get what you get when you buy a ship, whether it's with real money or in-game, and I'm going to answer some questions here that is really needed for a ship of this class. It does have a 16-minute and 23-second claim time, or a 5-minute and 27-second expedited claim time, a little bit high compared to a lot of other ships in the class, or around the medium fighter range, which is a little too bad, but in the end, these claim times will skyrocket sooner or later, so you got to keep an eye out for that. Now, let's get into what this ship can do for you as a heavy fighter. It does have a total of 3,327 burst damage per second with the 1 size 5 Deadbolt 5 ballistic cannon, as well as the 4 size 2 CVSA ballistic cannons. But I will say, right here and right now, I'm going to talk to you about these guns because the stock loadout is absolutely terrible. Looking at this little schematic I've made kind of shows you the reason why, and that's all to do with the round speed. Let's not even mention the fact that ballistic weapons get a 50% takeaway of their damage, so 3,327 is actually half of that number, and then you got to look at the round speed with your stock weapons, which is quite terrible, so there is a big recommendation with that. But before I go ahead and go over that, the CVSAs have a 1,320 meters a second round speed, while the Deadbolt 5s has an 828 meter a second round speed, which leads to something like this, where both pips are so far apart, you're only going to be using one set of weapons at a time, because unless the target is dead ahead of you and not moving, those pips are always going to be spread apart and you're never going to be able to land all your shots. So with that, my recommendation is to move into a different set of guns for at least the size 5 area to get as close as possible for the round speed. And with that, I picked the AUEC 12s, as it does have a 1,344 meter a second round speed, closing the gap with the CVSA, allowing it to look a little bit more like this when you're fighting a target where your pip is actually almost right on top of each other, so you're actually going to land most of your shots with your main armament. Now, that AUEC gun or Omni Sky gun, however you want to pronounce it, is a size 4. You could go with the size 5, but if you go back just a little bit and look at that diagram or graph or however you want to call it of the weapons compared, the size 5 does drop about 100 meters per second compared to that, so it still might be a better choice, or it is a better choice than the Deadbolt 5s, but that's something that you'd have to look into in seeing what works best for you. Now, you also have a manned turret giving 300 damage per second due to the 2 size 3 Jericho XLs, and I'm going to say right now, get rid of those immediately. I did, and I put NDB 30s on top of there because the Jericho XLs are just rockets. They're unguided, you don't lock them, you just fire them, they do 300. If you can actually hit a target, great. They do pretty decent damage, but good luck hitting a target. Now the pilot also has 4 size 2 Ignite 2 missiles, 4 size 3 Arrestor 3 missiles, 4 size 2 Dominator 2 missiles, and 3 size 5 Stalker 5 torpedoes, because in the end this is a heavy fighter, but it's also a torpedo boat slinging a couple size 5 torpedoes out there. But once again, this ship has so many issues with its torpedoes and its missiles. Half the time they don't even lock, and then when they do, they won't even fire. I had to reclaim this ship multiple times just to get the torpedo to actually let loose. No matter if I was locked onto a target or not, the thing would not fire, and that seemed to be a consistent issue. Now, moving past that, this ship does have 2 size 2 bubble shields generating 8,820 shield, as well as a total ship HP of 42,800. I'll say this ship has a lot of parts on it, a lot of wing areas, engine areas, weapon areas, and that spreads that HP out a little bit, so you're not as, invincible as you may feel flying this thing or any of the Vanguard series, which is honestly too bad, but still, 42,000 isn't absolutely terrible, and someday we won't even have that health pool to worry about, so it's all about where the components are, which I'll show you here in a moment. Now you have a top SCM speed of 212 with a top forward boost of 462 and a top backwards boost of 224 with a top nav speed of 1085. Definitely not terrible in the speed department, with a pitch yaw roll of 41, 35, 120 and a boosted pitch yaw roll of 49, 42, 144. Again, in the realm of maneuverability for a heavy fighter, it isn't terrible, but you have to be very careful about what you fight if you're getting into a PvP engagement, which isn't my recommendation with this ship. PvE, you won't really have any troubles. Again, change out your main weapons, but outside of that, you really won't have a problem fighting any sort of AI target. But in PvP, this ship becomes a really big complication, especially since your turret gunner doesn't even have any sort of auto gimbal, or you don't have any sort of good rotation on the turret. When you look up, you can only look up so little. It's actually quite terrible, and the turret is kind of laughable at this point on this ship. It's very complicated to use. Now, you do have 48 flares and 5 decoys, as well as 39 SCU of hydrogen fuel and 1.8 SCU of quantum fuel. And again, when they said this ship was a long-range patrol vessel, I would expect more than 1.8 SCU of quantum fuel, somewhere in the 2 to 3 range, but then again, a lot of cargo ships are sitting at 1.8, so it's kind of like, I don't think they're really done or even anywhere near close to balancing the fuel tanks, so we'll see how that turns out here in the future. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the interior of this ship and see where everything lies. You have one entrance, and that would be the back of the ship here, and when you enter that up the ramp, you're going to notice something if you turn around, which I'll do here, and you'll see, close this door, and you have yourself a components area at the back, which has the quantum drive in it. So closing that ramp allows you to get to one of your components, and then there's components in other areas of this ship as well, which we'll go ahead and take a look at here. But then moving through the rest of it, you do have a weapons locker where you can store a multitude of rifles, up to 4. And if you close that and turn around, well, first, let's look at this kitchenette. It's a beautiful kitchenette. You have the ability to make all sorts of food, and then you have your storage locker here. Press F, and you can store whatever you need to store. And then next to that, you do have the bathroom, which I'm always wary of the Vanguard bathroom because this used to either kill you or eject you. But I'll go ahead and enter out of pure fear of what may come next. But I'm going to go ahead and leave and close this door because I'm good, thank you. Now looking around, you have quite a bit going on in here, from having 2 beds here, allowing your crew to go ahead and sleep on their long distance journeys, as well as just a good amount of detail all around this area, from the handlebars allowing you to easily access your bed area, to just good looking detail around the surfaces, including a little camera up and to the right. But first, let's take a look over here. Where is your torpedo module where it says Aegis with love? What a beautiful sight. And then you have the torpedo handling system here, which is honestly probably going to be either removed or turned into an engineer station. We'll see. But then you also have a nice door which you can open up and input a blade someday, or any other NPC blade to help fire this turret up here potentially. This is the manned turret. Again, not a great turret. It actually has some visual glitches as well. And then moving on, you do have this staircase that you can open up to find even more components of this ship. But right now, nothing in there. So kind of more like just a hidden storage spot for your drugs. And then if you look around in this room, you do have more access to components on each side, including a fire extinguisher over here because, you know, we're all extremely excited for fire to be added to the game and for us to be running around like chickens with our head cut off. So it'll be a pretty interesting experience. I'm going to close these doors up and move on to the last component area before getting into the cockpit. Now, right here, you got the rest of your components, and then you're going to have your cockpit seat, which I'll go ahead and sit in here in just a moment to give you a view, which it does have quite a, decent view for a fighter. I don't know why I'm looking down, but it does have quite a decent view. Is it great? No, it's not excellent, especially since you have this huge, system right above you instead of a nice window, but you do have quite a few windows, a lot of struts, and then you have 4 MFDs in your radar, so it's not terrible. But then your power system, not so great either. But let's talk about that after we review this combat footage with the different types of guns on here. And yes, I lose more than I win some. Let's go ahead and take a look. And as you can see in the PvP fights there, it just really depends on who you're fighting, how well of an advantage you get, and overall, this ship just doesn't do well in PvP. It's not a PvP fighter at all. I really wouldn't take it into a fight, even if you change the weapons. It's still going to be hell of a time, especially with that turret being as terrible as it is, and then, you know, your stock weapons are terrible. Getting the pips to match is just a complication, and there's just so much that needs to be done to make this thing usable at all in on PvP, so try to stay away from that. But for PvE, you can have a great time with this ship. Even if you don't have a turret gunner, you can still do some decent damage. I wouldn't take too many hits if I were you, but it's out there, it's able to do it. Overall, for me, this ship is a 40 out of 100 due to the stock configuration being terrible, the turret being absolutely terrible, there being still graphical issues with the turret, with the ship itself. The ship needs a lot of love. It does have components, but it doesn't have a gold standard. Honestly, I wish it was in a better place, and someday it will be, but right now it's not. So let me know what you think of the Vanguard Harbinger down in the comments below. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being awesome. Keep an eye out. I do have a celebration video coming soon. Just, you know, starting a giveaway, multiple giveaways for hitting 30,000 subs. You guys are truly amazing, and I appreciate every single one of you. With that, I'll see you guys all in the next one.